Spurs at the weekend, so we've got House and Jay and Sweeney to talk about it. Let's start with the man of the moment, Henrik Mkhitaryan. Guys, is he going to be the next superstar of Manchester United, or are in fact we were getting a little bit excited about a goal in the Europa League? Jay, weigh in.
Do you know what? I'm going to get excited. I'm going to get carried away. Usually I'd be quite reserved, but why not? He looks the business. I think he had a bit of a tough rap following the derby. He sort of drops off the radar. We know what he could do at Dortmund. We also saw how effective he was there. And he's an exciting player. You know, he runs with the ball. He brings out the best in those around him. He likes his little 1-2s and his give it and goes. And he can finish as well. And I know we've been here before when we bought a player from Dortmund who looked great in Shinji Kagawa, and it didn't quite work out. But Mkhitaryan is just the type of player that we need. We need someone who can penetrate through the middle, because we've got people who can pass. We've got people who can move the ball around. And I think him and the likes of Pogba and Herrera and Mata, they could link up well, and he can start sort of raising the game of others around him a little bit. So I'm going to get carried away and say, yeah, he's amazing. He's going to help us win the title. Okay,
Sweeney, do you agree? It's been 3 good games for Mkhitaryan on the bounce now.
Yeah, I do. And I think Mourinho has to take a lot of credit here as well, because it's easy to look at a player coming in and it not quite working out in the start and think that he should be playing more games and get a run of games and things like that. And I think he's played a blinder. I think he's come back into the side now and he looks fresh. He looks it. Every single game I've seen him in so far this season, or this recent run of games, he's looked good. He's looked to create. And I don't think we've had a dribbler like him since Ryan Giggs, to be honest. I think anyone that we've had that's been good with the ball in the past has been different. He just glides with the ball. And he's threatened to score a goal like he did against Zoya a few times in recent games as well. So I think from what I've seen of him at Dortmund, he scored, something like 18 goals last season for Dortmund. And 20 assists or something like that as well. So this isn't someone who hasn't proven himself already. And I think when he gets going in the Premier League, as he's started to do, I think we'll see the best of him. And I think he's a mainstay in the side now for the rest of the season if he keeps fit.
Okay, Sweeney, Howson. So why haven't we seen him until now?
I think Mourinho might have played an absolute blinder with him, in all honesty. There's a half-joking conspiracy theory in 3101 in the Stretford end that Mourinho was deliberately holding him back till November, knowing that it'd be a difficult early transitional period, and then he releases him in November and then carries us right through the Christmas period, and we don't lose a game from now until 2071. Might be pushing it a little bit, in all honesty, but he's absolutely magic.
So, Marcus Rojo, Phil Jones, Chris Smalling, Eric Bailly, all have played at times, all have done all right at times, all have done well. No one's really done terribly in the case of Eric Bailly. So let's talk about who is the best pairing, guys. Sweeney, weigh in.
Well, I think when everybody's fit, I think it's Bailey and Blint for me. The back, I think they're slightly different players, but they're still quite good on the ball. And they can hold the ball quite well. I think the defence this season, defensively, we've been quite solid in the main. And I think we've played really well. We've not conceded too many goals. Take Chelsea out of the equation. It's only been, 1 goal here and there, really. It's been taking our chances that makes it look a little bit poorer. So I think there's a place for everybody in different games. And given that we've qualified for the Europa League next round now, I think there's plenty of opportunities. We've obviously got a double header against Hull in the Cup as well. So I think there's lots of opportunities for everyone to get a game. But I think when fit and when we're in playing big games, particularly in the Premier League, I think Blint and Bailey for me are the 2 big centre-backs. And I think they have to start when available and when they can.
Okay, Jay, do you agree? And what does that mean for the likes of Rojo, Jones and Smalling?
Well, I think, to be honest, I do agree with that centre-back pairing. But going back to Rojo and Jones, I think Jose deserves a medal for what he's got out of them too. Because I wasn't alone in this as well. I think a lot of United fans had written off both of them. I thought Jones was a bit of a disaster, and I thought Rojo didn't look up to the job. But they've both come back in. Jones, I know there's still quite doubts about how long term he can play for because he seems to get injured quite a lot. But he's done well since he's come back in, and so has Rojo. But I like Blind and Bailly. I said this on the sort of pre-season preview we did a few months ago, I should say, because I think Blind reads the game really well. He's more composed, while Bailey's sort of player who gets stuck in, flies in, which, if he can temper that a little bit, because sometimes it's a bit OTT, he's a fantastic defender. He looks the real deal. And I think those two complement each other. There's still slight question marks for me over Smalling. I know he's injured at the minute because everyone was sort of thinking Smalling was going to be a mainstay of our defence. But I like the Blint and Bailly partnership. But as we've seen with Rojo, we've seen with Jones, we might see it with Smalling. If Mourinho can get the best out of the defenders, then we don't know who the centre-back pairing is going to be. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, Howsam, who would you pick? What would be your preferred pairing?
I think the one I would go for is Baye and Blind, in all honesty. I like the contrast between the two of them. I think Baye can be rash, but his timing's excellent when he goes to ground. He's super aggressive. He's quick. He's physical. And Daley Blind is almost the opposite of that. But what Daley Blind brings to the party is a real calming influence. If you watch him off the ball, he's constantly talking to the whole back line. He's in communication with the everyone around him in the midfield in front of him. And I think that's something that's really lacked from United in recent years, is someone who can organise. And he's not the quickest. And I do think with the high line that we've played, Daley Blind is likely to get you caught out. But when you've got the likes of Tony Valencia, who could catch a Formula One car, and you've got Baye right next to him, you've got cover. So if you've got three speed merchants in the back line and Daley Blind, you can cover up for the weaknesses that he's got. And we thought that big, strong, physical forwards would take advantage of him, but he absolutely pocketed Lukaku last season like I've never seen anybody do. So I think he's up to the task, and I think he just needs to have a run of games alongside Baye, and that's the rock that you've got to build the rest of the team on, I reckon.
Interesting.
Oh, and actually, talking about Jones, everyone's saying, yeah, Jones has shocked everybody a little bit. Well, do you know the most he's been without an injury at United has been the last 7 months?
Mm-hmm.
And he's been out. That's the longest he's been without an injury. So he's due an injury. If he can come through 6 or 7 months without getting an injury, then we can talk about him maybe being a part of the first team squad. But until then, he's got a hell of a lot to prove. He's been injured every 3 to 4 months that he's been at the club, which is absolutely atrocious. I can't say it's his fault, but it is his fault at the end of the day, isn't it?
I think Mohamed
some of them are his fault.
Mohamed
Sometimes he flies in, doesn't he? And I remember, when we played Real Madrid, he played the home leg.
Yeah.
Away leg, sorry. And then I think we played Reading, I think it was in between, or it might have been Southampton. And he flew in and injured himself and then was out for the next game. So sometimes...
Best phrase I heard was Mohamed on a couple of previews ago, right? And it summed Jones up perfectly when he just said he plays with careless disregard for his own well-being, right? And that to me sums it up perfectly. I think he's a good footballer. I don't think he's going to be a great footballer, unfortunately. I think he's a good footballer, but unfortunately for us as United fans and for him as a player, I just don't think he's ever going to be fit enough for a long enough period of time. He's just a little bit too fragile.
He's clumsy. His approach to tackling is often so last-ditch that he puts himself in unnatural positions and he lands on his shoulder or he'll land on the back of his knee and stuff. And you think that is why you get injured. So let's move on to the weekend. Then we're playing Spurs. Howson, what would be your starting 11?
Well, I think we've got to go with a 4-3-3, mate, because I think that's fundamentally a stronger formation and it allows us to play Sir Michael of Carrick. So he's going to be the linchpin of the team. Big David net. Valencia is going to play at right back. I'm going to play Shaw at left back, even though he's not had a great season. I believe in him. I think he can come good again. I think he's still recovering from his leg break, in all honesty, and I think he's not fully recovered over that, but I do think he's good enough. So Luke Shaw's going to play at left back. I'm going to play Daley Blind, and I'm going to play Baye. If he's fit enough to play a Thursday night game, he's fit enough to play Premier League for me. Michael Carrick just in front of him, Herrera and Pogba alongside each other, and then I'm going to go flavour of the month a little bit up front, and I'm going to go Marshall on the left. Thought he was fantastic last week. I'm going to go with Mkhitaryan on the right because otherwise I get lynched, and I'm going to go with Zlatan up front. And I think there's a good blend of different sort of personalities and players in that team. I think this is probably our strongest team, and I understand that means leaving Rooney out and leaving Mata out, and even leaving Rojo out at the moment as well. I think the one change that you might see from that team is Rojo might stay because I think he probably deserves it at centre-half, and he might play Blind left-back over Shaw, but something along those lines, I reckon, is what you're likely to see, and I think that's easily good enough to turn Spurs over on Sunday.
Okay, Jay, what would you do?
Yeah, I think it'd be very similar. I don't know, the only sort of reservation I might have is whether Baye is fit enough. I know he's a fit lad to come straight back in and play a few days after sort of playing over in the Ukraine. I might be tempted to play someone else in his place, either Jones or Rojo. But I think what Howson said about Luke Shaw as well. I think we do need to have a bit of pace at left back because we know that Spurs get forward down those wing backs. We know that the likes of Kyle Walker on their right hand side and Danny Rose on the left do bomb forward. In midfield, it is going to be a physical game as well. They've got the likes of Wanyama, they've got the likes of Dembele. So yeah, you've got Carrick if he's fit, he has to play. End of. Herrera in there, he's a physical type of player. So yeah, definitely play him in there. Pogba's going to start in it. We know Zlatan's going to start up top as well. I say this every time I come on. If Rashford's fit, I play him. It's that simple. If he's available, I'd play him. And as Howson said, you can't not play Mkhitaryan. It'd be absolutely bonkers not to.
Would you put Rashford through the middle in the number 9 and drop Zlatan, or would you push him out to the left then?
If it was up to me, I would drop Zlatan, but I don't think he will. I think he'll play Zlatan up top, and I think he'll push Rashford out wide, and then he'll have Mkhitaryan operating. We probably have Rashford on the left, Mkhitaryan operating on the right, but I would like to see Rashford start up top. I've been saying that for months, and I know Zlatan's goal-scoring record is very good, but I do think you need to rest him up now and again, and I think it is it's a long journey, Thursday night. I know we're playing on a Sunday, bad conditions as well. If it was up to me, I would drop Zlatan, but I don't think he will. I don't think there's any danger of that happening.
Okay. Sweeney, what would you do?
Well, at the risk of a lack of diversity, I'm going pretty much the same, to be honest. I think the boys make a great point about Shaw. I'm not going to touch on that too much because they've already spoken a fair amount about it. I think it's all about whether Bailly is fit, and if he is, he plays because as we've already said, I think Blint and him are the perfect centre-back partnership. That midfield three is speaking for itself now of Carrick, Pogba and Herrera. I think a few people have said on different previews over the past few weeks, even months really, that is their preferred three. And I think that has to stay. I think it's got a balance of everything really. Carrick sits nice and deep, controls, is that quarterback position. Pogba's got a much freer role. And we saw against Zoya. Okay, I know it was Zoya and they're not exactly the best bearing of how well someone's playing, but he performed unbelievably against them. He showed the strength that he's got, the power that he's got, particularly when he's given that freedom. And then I think Herrera's absolutely everywhere. And I think he's been crucial to Mourinho's style of play. We've seen what he's done at Chelsea in the past. He loves that player that just harasses the opposition, but can also still play football. And I think Herrera's that guy. The only change I think that could potentially happen, even though he's played well, is maybe Mata starts again and Martial comes out the side. I think Martial's played well on the left, but I think Mata can still come in there and do a really good job, and he links up well with the other players that we've got. It's a much more fluid attack then, I think. But Martial is good enough to start. He's played too well almost not to at least be given the opportunity to. And then I think Jay's right about Zlatan. I think he's played well, but he's not been clinical enough. And I think there are times when you need to rest him. The only thing I would say, I think against Spurs, they do have a very solid back line. And if he can occupy a few of those centre-backs and cause them problems, then it does give space for the likes of Martial, for Mkhitaryan, even for Pogba to move into the box and cause problems. So I think he is actually perfectly suited to this game, but I think it is getting to that stage now in the season where Zlatan maybe needs to be rested for 1 or 2 games and Rashford given that chance. Okay.
This is one of those weird ones where everybody agrees. And also the narrative of conversation about whether or not it's acceptable to drop Wayne Rooney has just disappeared entirely. Can
I just say, that's where he's played. That's where he's played a blinder, Jose Mourinho. Everyone talks about him cracking up. Everyone talks about him losing the plot. You look at this season, I can only really think of Smalling that's properly regressed under Jose Mourinho. I think Shaw is getting better. It's just his leg break that was the issue. I think Martial had just a tough summer, and I think that was a problem. Other than that, I think Mourinho's got the best out of his players. I don't
know about Rashford, though. I think he's missing Rashford a little bit.
I think it's a second season syndrome issue there anyway. I wouldn't say he's necessarily regressed. I just think that...
I just think he's messed him about a little.
Side. Yeah, possibly. But in the main, I think he's dealt with...
I also think Rashford raised his own expectations far too high for the level of experience and ability that he's got under his belt. He exploded onto the scene and everything sort of came off, but to expect that was just going to continue for another 2, 3, 4, 10 years is just madness, I think.
Oh, I know, but this season he's been sort of in and out of the side. He's been on the left a lot, and I just think he's not... I don't think... you talk about Mourinho getting the best out of players. I don't think he's necessarily used him the best way he could have done.
I'd agree with Jay on that. We've taken someone who exploded onto the scene as a phenomenal number 9 and then pushed him out wide to accommodate him and give him game time. But that's not going to help him develop into that brilliant.
I still think that there's the Mkhitaryan kind of scenario again here. I think it's okay saying that he probably should play more. And I tend to agree he might have messed him about a little bit, but I do think there's an element here of get some experience in the side, and we've seen that with Zlatan. And then you start phasing Rashford in. And I think that's the best way of doing it in the way that he's done it with Mkhitaryan. So I agree with you with Rashford, but I think in the main, I think man management-wise, I think Jose's played a blinder this season. And the Wayne Rooney one in particular, taking him out of the side, I think United are a much better side for it. And it's not been a huge problem either.
Okay. Likes of Rojo, Jones and Valencia as well. I'd given up on all of them.
Valencia's been phenomenal.
They're important players, so can't argue that one.
Tony V, what a guy. Right, let's talk about Spurs. Who is injured?
Don't swear.
Howson, Spurs, get your spreadsheets out. Who's injured? Who's going to cause us problems? We've not won yet following a Europa League game. Is that the main concern, or is it the likes of Harry Kane and Dele Alli?
It's both, mate, because one, we haven't won on the back of a Europa game. We've took a pitiful amount of points following our Europa exploits. But these are a good side, and obviously you've got Harry Kane. He's getting headlines, and he's got 7 in 9. He's a great footballer. You've got Dele Alli, obviously makes a lot of headlines himself. But the ones that you've got to watch, I think, is Eriksen and Son. I think they're the ones that make this Tottenham side tick. And going forward, they are dangerous. But I think what you've also got to look at for this side is you've got Moussa Dembele, you've got Wanyama, so they've got a bit of steel and a bit of meat in the middle. And then they've got a good centre-half pairing in Vertonghen and Alderweireld. And I think Danny Rose is a good footballer. I think Kyle Walker can cause you problems. They've got a strong team right throughout. And Lloris isn't even bad, is it? Let's face it. So they've got a very good 11. Whatever 11 they stick out is going to be a good 11, and it's going to test us. If we can get 3 points here, it's a big 3 points. This is a massive game that I think people are slightly overlooking because Spurs just aren't a bigger name as Chelsea or City or someone like that. But they're going to be in and around the top 4. And if we want to be in there, we need to be beating teams that are already in there. And this is a perfect opportunity for us to do it.
Okay, Jay, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that midfield battle. You know, Howson mentioned Wanyama and Dembele. I'm Moussa Dembele's biggest fan. It still annoys me we didn't buy him from Fulham. Yeah, I thought he was amazing when he was at Fulham. He tore us a new one. We could have got him, and we didn't. That's another story. And I'm looking forward to seeing the likes of Herrera go up against Wanyama and Dembele. I think it is going to be a bit of a midfield battle. But yeah, they've got quality throughout the team. Like Howson was saying, this is a vital game because it's 2 teams you'd expect to be fighting for the top 4. And sooner or later, United have got to win a home game. It's got to come. I keep saying this every week. Oh, we'll win this one, and it's another draw. So I think we will win this. I think, you know, US, we've struggled after the Europa League, and it's not going to be easy because Spurs, like has been mentioned, they've got so many match winners there. You look at players that almost go under the radar a little bit. Howson mentioned Eriksen. You almost forget about him sometimes. Everyone goes on about Ali, or you forget about Son because everyone goes on about Kane. And that's what you've got to be wary of. It's the entire 11 almost have got potential in him. So you can't just focus on Harry Kane and Dele Alli. You have to sort of be wary of the rest. But where United are playing at the minute, I think if we can get the sort of the performances that we've been getting without the sort of the last 5-minute collapse or the strange substitutions, shall we say, then I think we can take all 3 points.
Okay, Sweeney, thoughts on Spurs? How do we beat them?
Well, I think the lads have touched on, you know, on where the real battles are, and I think the wing backs are a key battle, and that midfield. I think if you're a betting man, this has got a 1-1 draw written all over it. I mean, I think they've drawn 6 games the same as us, and they've drawn 4 away from home. We've drawn 4 at home. You know, so I mean, it's almost nailed on that this is going to be a 1-1 draw. But I think it's all about how we start in this game. I think we started well a couple of times more recently than early on in the season, but we're not being clinical enough. And I think the only difference really for me between Spurs and United this season are how clinical each side has been. You know, I think there have been a lot of games where they've been close to the wire. Spurs have just nicked a couple more than we have this season so far. And I think if we start well, we take our chance. I think we've got a very good shout, particularly being at home. And I still think Spurs have got that Spursy side to them, where if you put them under a little bit too much pressure, particularly early on in the game, it can cause them problems, or they can cause themselves problems. But they're a tough side to beat. And I think actually, annoyingly, coming away with a point against Spurs would be a good result. It's just given the nature of the season so far, it wouldn't be. So I think start well, first 30 minutes. If we take our chances, I do think we can come out just about 2-1, something like that.
Okay, so what do you think the actual score will be, Sweeney?
2-1 for me. 2-1 United.
Jay?
I'm going to go with a 1-0. I think we'll nick it just by maybe a cheeky Zlatan header.
Nice. Howson?
I think it'll be 1-1, mate, unfortunately.
Oh.
We have to win sooner or later. Sooner or later, it's got to happen.
Come on. Not acceptable.
Law of averages.
I'm with Sweeney. I can see a 2-1 coming. It'll happen. Right.
That's the slightly optimistic side. There's gonna be a goal apiece, and it's just whether or not someone can nick an extra one, to be honest.
This is ending on a downer. Let us know what you thought about all of that, guys. Get in the comments below and enjoy the game, I suppose. Cheers, guys.